For more on this, let me go to Julian Leeser, Liberal MP, joining us from Sydney. Good to talk to you, Julian. Yeah, there was speculation, there have been steps along the way where this Labor government have been getting weaker and weaker at the UN on Israel. There was speculation overnight that they would capitulate, but it must have been astonishing for you, especially as a member of the Jewish community, to see this vote unfold.
Chris, this is a shameful day in the history of Australian politics. The Labor Party have shredded decades of bipartisanship in relation to Israel. And what has been terrible here is the conduct of the Labor Party right from the time they first came to office. Before the last election, they promised that there would be no difference in the foreign policy of Australia, whether it was a coalition government or a Labor government. But they've been shredding it every single day that they've been in office. Remember what Penny Wong did and said after the 7th of October. While women were still being raped and while the terrorists were going door to door, she said that Israel should exercise restraint. When she went to Israel, she couldn't even go south to visit the kibbutzim and see the scenes of the crime. This is, as Peter Dutton says, all about a grubby political exercise in Labor trying to hoover up votes, selling out our fundamental values on the international stage, Australia not standing with its traditional allies like the United States, not standing with a democratic country, instead standing with terrorist organisations. And I've got a very big question to ask the Labor Party here, Chris. Labor claims to have within its ranks people like Richard Marles and Mark Dreyfus who claim to be supporters of the State of Israel. But they have been silent for more than a year, while opponents of Israel, who also sit in the cabinet, like Ed Husic, like Jason Clare, like Tony Burke, have been allowed to freewheel. At what point does Mark Dreyfus and Richard Marles say enough? We cannot stand by and let this happen. We need to resign on a point of principle. Because if they don't, they will show themselves to be the cowardly lions of Australian politics. This is a shameful day in the history of our foreign policy and shows everything about what the modern Labor Party has become.
Well, there are people in the Labor Party who are very concerned about this, very few of them speaking out so far. But as you say, there must be people in the caucus and in the cabinet right now who deeply disagree with what's happening there, and the onus should be on them to speak out. There is such a contrast here, isn't there?
Speak out and resign, Chris. It's come to that. We cannot have our foreign policy being dictated to by base political interests and one political party deciding they will sell out our values in order to appeal to Green voters in the intercity and Islamists in other parts of the country.
Well, let's just pin that down. But you're talking about Richard Marles as the Deputy Prime Minister and, of course,
Marles and Mark Dreyfus.
And Mark Dreyfus as the Attorney General, because you're saying a position like this would have to be a cabinet decision or have the imprimatur of cabinet. So if they disagree with it, they should resign.
That is my view, Chris. When I disagreed with the position my party had taken on a point of principle, I resigned. This is a very, very important point. This is about our fundamental foreign policy. I want to see Richard Marles and Mark Dreyfus show some guts and demonstrate that they're prepared to put their money where their mouth is here, because the government has gone too far on this point. And I'm sick of seeing the slices of the salami here of Labor with every resolution going closer and closer and closer to organisations that are fundamentally opposed to Australia's values. If people in the Labor Party really claim to be friends of Israel and support the Jewish community, they shouldn't be going along with this, because they are giving cover to Penny Wong and to Anthony Albanese and the terrible things that they're doing. And every time they delegitimise the Jewish state, they delegitimise Jewish Australians and give cover to the anti-Semitism that has been unleashed since the 7th of October. Anti-Semitism in this country, which is unprecedented, un-Australian and off the charts.
I agree with what you're saying. As you know, Julian, I've been talking about it for over a year now, and it breaks my heart. But let's just look to the other aspect of this, the practicality of it. If they say they're trying to push towards a two-state solution, now has got to be the worst time to be talking about that. There's just no evidence of any significant leadership in the Palestinian people, of who would run a two-state solution, of where its borders would be, or indeed if there's any capacity on the Palestinian side to even recognise the right of Israel to exist.
You're absolutely right about this, Chris. It shows that our foreign policy is being made by people who just do not understand the realities on the ground. And how can you possibly talk about recognising a Palestinian state at this point when Hamas still is holding 100 people hostage, including children and women, when you've got many of the Palestinian actors who, as you say, do not recognise the right of the State of Israel to exist? This is putting the cart well and truly before the horse. You know, if you want to embark on the peace process in the Middle East, you need to go back to the 6th of October. That's exactly what Israel was doing, making peace with more and more of its neighbours.
Exactly.
But some of these Palestinian actors didn't like that fact. They didn't like the fact that Israel and the Saudis were poised to sign a deal, and that's what these terrorist attacks were all about. To reward the Palestinians at this point for this action makes absolutely no sense and is a dereliction of the foreign policy traditions of this country.